Hi, and welcome to the BookishStitcher podcast. My name is Jeanette. You can find me on most social media sites like Ravelry, Instagram, Goodreads as BookishStitcher, all one word. I hope you guys have had a wonderful week since we last talked. I had a really good one. My son and I yesterday actually got the chance to go on a mommy-son date, and we went and painted pottery. I know I showed you guys last week the pottery that I got back that I had done. Well, he was so excited to see those, and he was really interested in doing it. So yesterday, he and I went out and did some more, and I painted two more in my quest to have a set for the house of rainbow chevron bowls, and he did a whole bunch of different things. He painted, it was about this big, it was huge, a dragon piggy bank, a sea turtle, a kitten, and a heart-shaped box. And so we were there for a couple hours, and we had a lot of fun just hanging out together and talking. He did most of the talking because I'm a little bit quieter than he is. He's a very big talker. He was always one of those kids that likes to ask lots of questions. So we had a fun time doing that. And the rest of the week was just pretty standard, nothing too eventful happening here. But I did do what I said I was going to do last week when I said that I was going to cast on all the things. I didn't cast on all the things, but I cast on a whole bunch. I still have two more that I wound, but I haven't actually cast on yet. I wound by hand yarn for a self-striping sock because I haven't had one of those on the needles in a while, so I wound some of that, and then I also wound a skein of yarn using my ball winder in Swift for the Firefly Chai Shawl, which I'm going to probably start this week, hopefully, or sometime in February. But I did cast on three other things. One of them I cast on and finished. It was just the yarn so soft, and it was on huge needles, so I just kept wanting to work on it. So this is it. See, it's really large. This is the Gaptastic Cowl by Jen Gagley. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly, but the yarn I used for this was some Big O from Knit Picks in the Rabbit Heather colorway. And it's like that's kind of a true color right there. It's a huge, enormous cowl. Oh, I should have said look away from I don't know if my sister-in-law watches this, but it's a Christmas present for her. She probably doesn't watch, but I still have to sew in the end. But it's a huge, huge cowl. My sister-in-law is very, very fashionable, so she can pull off the big, I probably wouldn't wear this out, but she's really fashionable, so there's that. And that's for her, and it's finished. My hair's crazy, but it's already I just took it out of a bun right before I started podcasting. So it was really nice because that's going to be a Christmas present for her next year. So there's one Christmas present done. And I knit that on size 13 needle, so it just flew off. And the Big O yarn from Knit Picks, it's merino and acrylic, but it's so amazingly soft. If you're ever looking for a bulky yarn for a cowl for a present, I would definitely recommend it because it's really soft. I believe it's machine washable, and it's a pretty good price too. The other thing I finished this week is my daughter's cloak. I ordered a button for this from Wildflower Button Studios, I believe, but it hasn't arrived in the mail yet. It's really cute. It has a little bird sitting on a branch of a tree, and there are leaves of all different kind of fun colors, so I think the button will be adorable. But this is her cloak. It's called the Hooded Jacket by Debbie Bliss, and the yarn I used was Barocco Vintage, and I just had to finish the hood, so grafted it. I think I did a 3-needle bind off instead. I don't know what the pattern called for. I just did what I wanted to. But that's the thing. And there's an arm. And another arm. And there's the body. It's, like I said last week, way too big for the size I intended it to be. I tried to upsize it mathematically, doing different math stuff for it. And it's a little bit bigger, but I'm extremely fine with that because it's for a child, so she'll grow into it. And it's machine washable, which is really nice, and it's a really pretty color. So I'm really happy that that is done and that she'll be able to wear that. Sorry, my nose has fuzz on it. The thing that I worked on this week, it wasn't a new cast on. I didn't really work on the ease sweater. I think I worked on it one night, but mostly not a lot. I did work a lot on the Color Affection shawl that I've shown you guys several times, and I am about just to be at the border, and I'm saving that for the knitting retreat I have at the end of February. So these socks are my Breaking Hearts by Christy H. Payne, and they're out of Neely's Knits in the Mood for a Love Affair color. And as you guys saw last week, I had the first one finished. And it's just this beautiful, beautiful, fun yarn. I really, really am enjoying knitting with it. And then this week, I did, kind of wrapped around, the cuff, and I actually did turn the heel and started, and I've gotten the gusset finished because this morning I was just right here. But I'm an assistant organizer in a play group for my daughter, and there's a whole bunch of other, I believe there's almost 75 moms, plus all their kids in the play group. And so this morning we had an organizer meeting. We all got together and just talked about different agenda stuff. And that went on for, I believe, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours, 2 to 4 hours. I had to leave because, I'd been there for a while, so I don't know how long it exactly went on because I didn't stay till the very, very end. But I worked on this sock while I was there because probably as anybody else who knits knows, I don't know if this is unique with me or if this is just a common knitter thing, I now cannot sit somewhere and not do something with my hands. It would drive me insane to be like in a meeting, sitting there for 2.5 hours, just sitting. You're not, doing anything else. You're just sitting there. And a lot of it's talking. There was some note-taking, but very little. Most of it was just discussing ideas. So I had to have something to knit on. So I got the heel flap done. I turned the heel, and I did the gusset. Normally, I would not, like I've said on the podcast multiple times, I am not good at knitting stuff that requires a lot of thought, and turning the heel and doing the heel flap, that definitely requires some thought. But there were a few of us there, and I was in a big group. I'm more of a listener, so I just kind of listened, and I could focus more on that than as opposed to knit night. I guess I talk a little bit more than I do at the assistant organizer stuff. Probably because at knit night I'm asking people questions about yarn and patterns and stuff like that. So that is the sock, and it needs to be done this week so I can start on a new sock. It doesn't need, well, I'm gonna finish it probably in the next couple days because there's not that much left on it. And that is in my Girl Cave bags, which I've showed you guys before. The next thing I have is a new one, and actually I'm gonna show something. Okay, so next thing, this one is a new one as well. This is in my Little Skein in the Big Wool project bag. It's actually my son's. He got the birthday present of the kit because he knits, and I knit him the monster that came with the kit. But I've been borrowing his bag because he only does one project at a time. He doesn't have a lot of projects going. So I cast on, I believe I showed you guys last week, this yarn that I got from January Yarns in the graphite color, and I told you that I was going to be using it for an escargot hat by Veronica Parsons. I knit my mom an escargot hat for Christmas, and it was just really, really cute. And hers was in brown and blue, and I decided I wanted one in black and green. So, black, gray, and green. Sorry. There it is right there. And here's the green. The green is actually done by Alicia Goes Around. And she has I've talked about her yarn a lot. She has very, very soft yarn. And there's some hair of mine. Anybody who has long hair probably can relate to that, where your hair gets in everything. But this hat is in 1920s style, has a little thing on the side. And I am in the part where there are short row shaping. So it's kind of on the needles. It's a free pattern. Part of this will become the hat brim, and part of this will be wrapped around itself to become the flower. So I haven't done very much because you start off with 240 stitches, which is a lot, and so it takes a while to get across a row. I've been knitting on this while catching up on back episodes of Downton Abbey, and that show it always makes me frustrated at different points with how different people act. But anyways, I am just going to keep watching episodes and knitting away on this. I am about halfway done with making the flower that's going to be wrapped around for the hat. And the next thing I have to show you guys might be the most favorite thing of mine that I have ever knit. You add like 18, most, because I am knitting a Weigh It shawl by Susan B. Anderson, but I am knitting it not out of Yowza like the pattern calls for. I am knitting it out of some of my hand spun. Look at that. And I knew it was pretty. I knew I loved it when I wound it up. I knew all that, and I've knit hats out of my hand spun, but there's something different about knitting a shawl out of your hand spun because it's very big and it's very soft, and the colors, just the way they go together, it's so squishy. And I've never had this with a project that I just want to work on it, but I don't want it to ever end. And that's exactly how I'm feeling with this. I never want this project to end. It's just so lovely. So here it is. Dip it in the water. It's growing quite a bit. It's kind of wrapped around itself. The hand spun is working wonderfully in this. Hold it up close for you guys. It's just gorgeous, and it's so squishy. It's just a joy. I can't even really describe it in words how it feels to have made this really beautiful yarn and now be knitting it into a shawl. It's just a great feeling. So I have decided that from now on I want every single one of my shawls to be done with hand spun. We'll see. That probably won't actually happen, but it's so great. And that is all the works I have in progress right now. I didn't get much spinning done this week because I've just been knitting. And I've also been doing a lot of the other part of my name other than Stitcher, the bookish part. I have several books going on right now, and I've been reading a ton this week. That's what I've really been wanting to do, and I've just been kind of letting myself curl up under a blanket at night and read. So I've been doing a lot of that. I did have some enabling come in the mail today, not today, today is Sunday, this week, and it is my January shipment of Bumble Birch yarns, and it's not black. It is, let me see if I can hold it up against something to get a better color. There you go. It's like a blue. Yay for having the cowl there to show that. This is her worsted weight. It's called Forage, and the colorway is Winter Solstice. And she is out of Portland, Oregon. You can find her on Etsy. This is her little information card. The January yarn shipment came a little late because they had moved houses, which is really exciting because she was writing us on Etsy and saying that she used to be dyeing in her tiny little apartment, I believe, and she would do it in the kitchen. It would take up so much space, but now she has her own area where she can dye, and I think that would just be so exciting as a dyer, as anybody who works with their hands and creates something, to have their own space. I think that's wonderful that she has that. So, well, I showed the color to you. My husband has already claimed that as a hat. He wants me to knit him a cabled hat, and it's really soft. So I think he will love that. I just wanted to mention, make sure I did, that this is the last couple days, 3 days, 2.5, to sign up for swaps. They will be closing midnight, around there, on the night of February 10th. And the swap that we have going on in the Ravelry group right now, which is BookishStitcher, all one word, podcast, is a local things swap, and signups close February 10th. The amount to spend is $20, and it's just anything local. If you have great coffee, great tea, if you have someplace like a farmer's market that sells soaps or candles, it can be anything. Local yarns, if you have somebody local. And that's all over on the Ravelry group, and it's been really fun reading, like I said, what everybody collects and different things like that. So I'm really, really excited to get paired up. My husband's going to do the pairing, so it'll be a surprise to me, and buy some stuff for my partner. And we will be getting to you the information on February 11th, so you'll have the maximum amount of time to get your package together and send it out. You will need to send out your package by March 1st. And I also wanted to mention, I told you guys before, I'm going to a lot of festivals and stuff this year, more than I've ever gone to in my entire life. I've completely fallen in love with the fiber community again. You guys are all so wonderful. And I've been knitting for a while, but I haven't been going to a lot until last year. And so this year I just want to go to everything I possibly can. And so I'm going to be doing most of my purchasing of stuff at festivals. But I decided once a month I was going to try out a new to me yarn and get something from theirs. And this month for February, I just ordered it a few days ago. I ordered from Skeins in the Stacks, and she's on Etsy, and she was having, I got Instagram enabled, she was having a 50% off all her yarn, 50. You have to buy it, right? Because I've never seen a sale that good. 10, 15, 20, 20 is pretty good, 50, it was amazing. So I ran right over there, and I got something for me, and I got something for you guys. So if you love her yarn, or if you haven't tried it out and you would like to, you need to go over to the Ravelry group, and there's going to be a thread coming up sometime this week, probably mid-early week, for that yarn, and I will have a picture in there. I might even put it up today because I have a picture from when I purchased it on Etsy. But there will be a picture in there, and you can go and enter to win in the Ravelry group for a skein of her DK weight single ply merino yarn. And I believe she does different stories. So I believe the ones that I bought were from Peter Rabbit, and it's a very cool concept because she takes these different stories and then designs yarn around them. So the prompt for that giveaway that's going to be in the group is, what book or series would you like to see done up as yarn? I think that'll be really fun reading through, and if you want to go into it and explain, like, I would love the cover of this book to be done in yarn, and show a picture of the cover and say why, that would be great, and give lots of ideas. I know that she's not a member of our group or anything as far as I know, but I think it would just be fun to get new ideas and to think about different books that we would like to see done up as yarn. So if you would be interested in winning a skein of some skeins in the Stacks, go over to the Ravelry group. You have to be a member, of course, for any giveaway that we do, and you can enter for that. I also wanted to tell you guys the D-Stash thread that's up in the Ravelry group is really going strong. I had no idea that so many people would be interested in that. The bags that I showed last week, all except for one, are sent off in the mail to their new homes. And we had on the Ravelry group thread, the D-Stash this week, there was a Namaste bag that was gorgeous, and that was promptly bought up. I believe there's still a skein of some Desert Vista Dye Works that's up there that you should go check out, because Desert Vista Dye Works makes amazing yarn. So if you'd like to get some of that for you, you can go check out the D-Stash thread and contact that person. We also had someone who has amazing hand spun and just loves to spin and can't, knit up her spinning fast enough. So she was selling some hand spun, and I believe there's still a couple skeins left of that. I had to get one in my son's favorite colors. I think it's a reference to Finding Nemo, I believe, and it's blues and oranges, and that will be coming in the mail this week, so you guys will get to see that next week. I'm really, really excited because I love hand spun. I want everything I knit to be hand spun from now on. Not really, but that's just kind of how I'm feeling at the moment. a very, very big love of hand spun, which means I need to get to spinning some more. In the month of January, I spun/plied 5 4-ounce braids, so that was a ton. And in February, I'm kind of just going to focus on the spindles, like I said last week. We also have, I don't think there's anything else up in the D-Stash thread, but if you would like to put up anything, any project bags, any yarns, any needles, it's a great place to do that because a whole bunch of people get to see it and just kind of get it out there, and it's an easy way to sell it as opposed to, people trying to go and look at different people's Ravelry pages. They can just go to one spot. And of course, that's for group members too. And I wanted to say one more thing before I got to the book review for this week. I know that Valentine's Day, if you celebrate at all, we don't really go out during Valentine's Day for anything because it's really crowded and I don't really like crowds. But Valentine's Day is coming up, so if you would like to spread some love and you watch the podcast, this podcast or any podcast, and you really love and enjoy it, and you watch from iTunes, you can go on iTunes and give the podcast a rating. And I haven't ever mentioned this before on the podcast, but I just thought I might now since it's Valentine's and, do nice things for others. I'm going to go and rate some of my favorite podcasts and different stuff like that. So I would really love it if you haven't rated it and you love the podcast. If you give it a rating on iTunes, that would be really, really nice. I had a funny thing happen on iTunes this week. I got an email and I wasn't really sure what it was about. It was somebody saying they had, I guess, seen the logo for the podcast, and the podcast right now on iTunes is up in the new and hot and new or exciting and new hobbies section. And the logo for the podcast, of course, is a cartoon drawing. So I think somebody accidentally saw that and thought that, and didn't read the title that it says BookishStitcher, but I think they saw the cartoon drawing and they thought, oh, it's a podcast about learning how to draw. So they went and watched it and they wrote me an email. Then they weren't very happy. They were saying, this is not a podcast about learning how to draw. Your thing is misleading. And I was just thinking, well, it says BookishStitcher podcast, so hopefully, I don't know if I need to change anything with that, but hopefully, if you are watching this is a knitting podcast. I always forget to say that at the beginning, so maybe I should start saying that, but this is a knitting podcast. It's not a learn how to draw cartoons podcast. But anyways, if you would like to go and rate the podcast if you really enjoy it, I would love that. If you would like to write a comment below, definitely do that because, I love reading those. It's really sweet what some people have said. So I just wanted to say that. And thank you to everybody who has rated and has left a really sweet comment. It means a lot to me that you enjoy the podcast, and that's why I do it. I do it for people that are friends and that I feel like are friends and that really enjoy it. So thank you guys. The book this week is something that I've been thinking about a lot because we've been talking on the Ravelry group about palette cleansers and what books do you read when you need a palette cleanser. And it was very interesting, people talking about what kind of books they read. And there are a lot of people who read romance, or some people like to read mystery or thrillers, or just very mainstream pop culture books. So that got me thinking, what books do I read when I need a palette cleanser? Which is kind of a funny term for me because I am that person that will be always reading a classic, and 800-page classic, 800 Russian, Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, I read those for fun. But I do ever so often want a quick read. So I guess in essence, a palette cleanser for me would almost be like a quick read or something very funny. I love books that make me laugh. So while a romance or those kind of things would definitely not be palette cleansers for me because I don't tend to read them, but there is an author that I dearly love that is definitely a palette cleanser and makes me laugh, and they're very fast reads. He's been around for a very long time, so you've probably heard of him. This is probably nothing new. The author this week in the book is by Terry Pratchett, and the book's title is The Color of Magic. The screen's kind of showing multiples of itself, but that is it, The Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett. Now, Terry Pratchett has designed a world. It's kind of like, it's not really like Tolkien, but Tolkien, designed an entire world around The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and there's a whole bunch of culture of that area and region that he put into it. Terry Pratchett has done the same in a comedic sense, in that there is Discworld, this whole entire world, and the earth is on top, or the planet is on top of several creatures floating in, and turtles and elephants, and it's brilliantly funny. I am normally like a silent kind of laugh. I'll chuckle. I laugh out loud at Terry Pratchett several times in one book. I believe this is, if not the first, it's weird because they're different stories and you don't necessarily have to read them all in order, but you can. So this is the first one that I read, and there's also a movie that you can get on Netflix based off the book, and the movie is hilarious as well. And the whole thing with the book is that there is a tourist who has come to this certain area, and the tourist's name is Two Flower, and he has a ton of money, more than anybody's ever seen. He's just carrying it around with him, and he wants to hire a guide. And then flash to Rincewind is a wizard at this wizarding school, and he's the worst wizard there. He's been there forever. He can't do anything, and he's kind of the outcast. He is the outcast. Literally, they cast him out of the wizarding school. So Rincewind becomes Two Flowers' guide around this giant land, and they have many hilarious adventures. And Terry Pratchett just does such a great job being funny and witty. It is definitely not the stupid type funny. I'm not really a fan of that. I like the witty, smart funny. And he just does a great job. So this is definitely a palate cleanser for me. There are tons of these books in the series. And some of them, I believe, at least 3 or 4, have been made into Netflix movies, which are, I'm not a big stickler about movies versus books most of the time. So I really enjoy the movies. And this is my palate cleanser. Anything by Terry Pratchett in the Discworld series. Terry Pratchett, Color of Magic. So if you like fantasy and you like witty, funny books, I would definitely encourage you to go check out Terry Pratchett. He's done a ton, so there are a lot out there for you to see, and they should completely be available at your public library or anything like that if you want to just go check it out instead of having to buy any books. So that is the book for this week. I hope everyone has a wonderful upcoming week and is enjoying their knitting and their reading. And I will talk to you guys next week. Okay, bye guys.